Is India buying Russian oil in its national interest? Now, many believe that this has led to profiteering, of course, of a few corporates close to the government. But what do people say? Yes, say 69%. India should continue to buy Russian oil. It's in its national interest. No, say 16%. Given these numbers, Shankar Iyer, there's a wave of nationalism that says that we've got to stand up to the bully, and America is seen as the big bully. There are others, and the first question becomes relevant in that, who are also worried about or anxious about Trump's high tariffs. How do you see this play out? Sovereignty on one side versus policy making on the other?
Well, nobody has ever accused the Americans of knowing history or geography very well. So let's sort of move away from their contention. Donald Trump was looking for a geopolitical deal. Where India messed up is that they were focused on a trade deal. So the Ukraine war is the albatross that is hanging around the Western world. Now, the reason why Korea or others kowtowed to did what they want, because their defense budget is funded by the American money. EU agreed to whatever was to be agreed because of that. But they've also done a bit of sleight of hand. Japan is supposed to invest $600 billion, no details available. EU is supposed to invest $500 billion, no details available. So the bottom line is there is no MRP or maximum retail price when you're negotiating with a bully or a transactional person. There is no doubt that Americans understand India's compulsions, but they're just trying to see whether they can break the will. The point here is, what are your options? So the Prime Minister is now going to Japan. He's meeting people in China, which is another relationship which is fraught with some issues. So India's only answer in the long run would be to fix the issues of its domestic economy, about employment, about skilling, about funding. I mean, India wants to export to the world. How many banks in India are willing to go and fund exports abroad? What is the kind of depth that you have? Now, India will have to create policies to help those affected by the tariffs. Do you have the depth in the fiscal to do that? So you'll have to
which
raise
comes to the point I'm making, that this is not just about rhetoric. This has to also become now about policy making. There's an important GST meeting, for example, in a few days from now. The government is going to have to get its act together. This is a wake-up call. Arun Kumar, when I look at those numbers on Russian oil, I've heard a lot of people saying, maybe we should do a cost-benefit analysis. I had Raghuram Rajan on the show. He says it's time to do a proper cost-benefit. How much has Indian consumer really gained? How much have private companies gained? How much have we as a country gained by buying cheap Russian oil? Do you believe these are all valid questions to raise at the moment? Because there will be those who will say, we are not buckling like Gaurav Sawant under any kind of pressure from the Americans. We are going to continue, even though silently, quietly, we have reduced our dependence on Russian oil just in the last couple of months. We don't want to make a noise about it. That's the only difference.
So, Rajdeep, you're right. We have to look at the big picture and then come to the specifics. The big picture is that we didn't start the tariff war. Before Trump came, our average tariffs were 17%, US tariffs were 3%, So what Trump is doing is imposing actually protectionist tariffs. These are not reciprocal tariffs. At best, the reciprocal tariff should have been 14% because that was the difference between them and us. But what he's doing is he's trying to bring jobs back to the US. Now, that's not going to happen because US wages are very high compared to what India and China has to offer. So, what an Indian worker earns in 2 months is earned by an American auto worker in 1 day. So therefore, it's not going to happen that, all the production is going to go back to the US, etc. So I think very quickly, what you'll see is stagflationary conditions rise in the USA. And that will actually create problem within the US for the US economy and for Trump. The trifactor that is helping Trump in terms of the judiciary, the legislature, and the presidency, that is under threat in the coming elections next year. Now, if the trifactor goes, US may not be able to continue with the imposition of the tariffs that are there at the moment because it's the power of the Congress.
But that's a year from now, Professor Arun Kumar, that's a year from now. The elections are November next year. The fact is, at the moment, you support the general national mood seems to be stand up to the bully. Do you believe that's the right stand?
Yeah, so we've been, as you rightly say, we've been quietly actually buckling under. For instance, during the budget also, we reduced tariffs, we've increased the import of energy, we are increasing defense expense, etc. But that's not going to satisfy Trump. Therefore, what do? We need to actually, as Preeti and others have said, we need to actually look at the internal economy and boost the internal economy, especially the unemployment situation, because that is where I think the mood of the nation would switch. Because if this continues with a lot of unemployment increasing, and especially also with H1 visa and the green card, etc., all that creating a climate of a despondency among the youth, then I think the situation would change. So I think very quickly the government needs to increase the demand within the economy. That will not benefit the exporters because the GST is not the what is going to help them, but the general demand might increase and investment might increase.
I have been hearing that for the last couple of years with due regard, Professor Arun Kumar, and no one disagrees. We need to stimulate demand. I'm just seeing a poll, your cover of Business Today. Business confidence is at an all-time low for 11 quarters. Domestic demand is tepid. Many Indian big business are not investing in the big projects. All of this were talked about in the last budget, but it's not translating on the ground. Is this a wake-up call in that sense?
And the BT C4 survey that you refer to was conducted with around 500 plus CEOs in the time frame of July 10 to 25. I just want to make one point. This survey, particularly the latter part of it, comes after the 2 rounds of US tariffs. The first US tariff kicked in on 30th July, the second one kicked in a week later. Now, given that, what is very clear, Rajdeep, at the top end, there is nervousness of grim tidings.
Right.
And at the mass level, which this survey captures, there is nervousness. One quick point, Rajdeep, and why we are missing the point. Let's not forget that India buckled in once, and that memory perhaps is guiding our stance now. In May 2019, we stopped buying Venezuelan and Iranian oil. One more quick
But
point.
that time there were
Gaurav,
sanctions. This time there are no sanctions.
let me complete that point.
Yes.
We did that. And why there is no trust of the US stance is evidenced by that. The second thing, it's 3 years plus and counting. Petrol, diesel prices have remained frozen. They have not increased. There have in fact been some adjustments.
They have not decreased either.
No,
not substantially.
there
Substantially.
has been an adjustment.
Not
Now-
substantially.
No, just one final point.
The benefit has not passed
But
on to the consumer. Had the benefit been passed on to the consumer, the same consumer would have perhaps cheered more.
Let me just finish the point. In regard to the survey and the question on Russian oil, all I'm saying is, I guarantee that all these respondents, 200,000 plus respondents, no one knows the color of the oil when it is filled in his motorcycle, or whether it is Russian oil, whether it is some other Gulf oil. They don't care about it. What they are caring about is, are you standing up to the bully who has mistreated you in the past? In the past, you agreed with his stance.